Well, hey everyone, I'm Kelly Yazdi with Restaurant Motorcycle Attorneys, and I have the absolute pleasure of getting to interview my dear friend Robert Pandya today for the Restaurant Motorcycle Attorneys interview here on YouTube. Robert, welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the live studio audience for showing up today. I appreciate you all out there.
Well, let's just dive right into it. So, I think the first question here is, how did you get into motorcycling? I mean, this
Ooh.
this This is a big question, I know, but I would just love to pass the mic to you and tell us how did you even get into it?
Well, I'm fortunate to have had a full life around motorcycling, but it didn't really start out in any sort of notable way. I needed to be able to get around, and somehow, well, I couldn't really afford a decent car, but somehow I managed to get my dad to co-sign for I think it was a 1986 Suzuki GN 250, which is the least notable motorcycle Suzuki has ever made. And but it was just pure transportation. It was literally just, I got to get around. I can't afford a car. That'll help me get a bike. And I think he was kind of cool with it because he was from India, and he used to ride us around on a scooter, on a Vespa with a sidecar. Pretty sexy stuff.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's pretty great. And so I think somehow I got him, even though he was a doctor, somehow I got him to co-sign that loan, and I got into motorcycling at that point, and it was just a utility. And then, very quickly, like sort of the community presented itself, and I'll tell you one story is, I bought it from a place in Waukegan, Illinois, and I was riding out in the countryside almost up to Wisconsin, and the bike just stopped running, and I was like completely inept, just, a total idiot. I was not much of a mechanical person back then. Motorcycling taught me almost all my mechanical sensibilities.
Mhm.
And this super hardcore one percenter biker dude comes rolling up next to me, and I thought, okay, this is where I die. This
Yeah.
is clearly what's going to happen now. And he's going to steal my motorcycle, and that's the end of my life, and it's been great. And he's like, "What's going on, brother?" And long story short, that's where I learned what the reserve petcock was on a motorcycle, and he basically gave me this look like, "Don't be an idiot next time," and took off. And to just be stuck on the side of the road as a, gosh, I think I was like 17 and a half years old or something like that, and like kind of the middle of nowhere, and have just random biker guys show up and teach me how to turn on the petcock and remind
Mm.
me to read the owner's manual, um was, I mean, that just like really kicked it all off. And then I had motorcycles up through college just for transportation, and sold one to get a car, and I thought that was the end of my career, and riding career. And then I was a photographer, and I went into interview with this couple that was getting married, and I walked past this motorcycle that was under a cover, and I'm like, "Hey, what's that?" And the husband's like, "Oh, that's my FT 500 Ascot." And his fiance was like, "Well, we're getting rid of that as soon as we get married," And I was like, "Oh, ding ding!" So I ended up trading, shooting their wedding for the motorcycle, and I was like, "Yeah!"
Really?
And I got this. Yeah, really, I got this really sweet FT 500 Ascot that only had, I think, 800 miles on it or something like that, and I rode the heck out of that thing for a long time in Austin, Texas, and just kind of continued on. I got to be a service writer at a multi-line dealership. I helped set up the Aprilia dealership in Austin. I met the Aprilia marketing manager, Bill Stone, who gave me a job at that point, and I worked with
Mm.
Aprilia, which rolled into Moto-Guzzi and Piaggio and other stuff. I did that for 10 years. And then I took a little bit of a break, and then I fell into Victory motorcycles, and then I was with Polaris and Victory for 10 years, and that's where the overlap of Indian motorcycle came from,
Mm.
and where we did a lot of work together. and that has like just sort of continued on. So every one of my jobs has been like sort of 10 years, 10 years, 10 years kind of thing. And I know, because I look 29. It's amazing.
I know, actually, I was
And
26, but 29, sure.
and and then I got to work at the Buffalo Chip for a couple of years as their COO. And I just started a new job at the Barber Vintage Motorcycle Museum in Birmingham, Alabama, and I couldn't be more excited about that. It's the best job in the world for my jacked up motorcycle MacGyver skill set. I'm so excited. It's like the best thing ever.
Oh my goodness, that is so cool. First off, congratulations on this new position that you have. I mean, again, just from personally knowing you and also through, you sharing your story about how you got into motorcycling. I mean, it's really inspirational that you've held so many different positions, right? You're extremely palatable as, and who you are and what you do, but I think it's so fascinating for me to know and see and for our audiences to understand like there's this there's so many ways to be involved in motorcycling. There's so many different avenues, right? And kind of one thing leads to another. And I'm sure throughout your experience in this industry, you've come to see what works for you, what doesn't, what's your vibe, what's not. But overall, you get to share your passion for motorcycling every single day, which
It's
is really
it's
cool.
it's really insane. And the thing that's crazy is like when you look at a career as you get towards the apogee of your career and you start to look back, right? The connectivity of it all is just it's humbling, and it's amazing, how many people who gave you just the slightest opportunity like fundamentally blew a door open for you. And I can start rattling off a bunch of names of people who've just been so influential in my life, and opportunities that came up, like getting to be, parallel with the other work. I was always doing side hustles. Um, and it was, like being the spokesperson for the IMS tour, concurrent with working for Aprilia and Guzzi at the time, was exhausting, and
Mhm.
it was fulfilling. And I got to do the Today Show with like Matt Lauer and Katie Couric, and and I got to represent like all brands of motorcycling, even though I was working for one. And so just like little things like that, where you just kind of say yes now and figure it out later,
Mhm.
has just really been just a blessing and an amazing opportunity. And I encourage anybody who's like a younger person, or anybody in the industry, honestly,
Mhm.
no matter what your skill set is just say yes and figure it out. And you'll be surprised how much work is out there that can take you out on a national level, and traveling and see the diaspora of motorcycling in the States, which it's, the motorcycle conversation is different in Miami than it is in Portland, than it is in Ohio or Chicago or, or Arkansas or whatever, So
Mhm.
it's really a diverse, amazing community. I'm just so proud to be part of it.
Mhm. I likewise, honestly, I couldn't have said that more eloquently myself, truly.
Oh, I
And
guess we're wrapped up then. We nailed it.
we're never wrapped up, Robert. We got a
Oh,
whole life, a whole lot more adventure to go on. You can't get out of this friendship that easily, my friend.
okay. Oh
But no,
God,
really,
it's Yazdi on the line again. Oh man.
this chick, come on now, all the way from Hawaii, right? And
Right.
but I love what you said about just saying yes, really just saying yes to the adventure because I think, I mean, especially from your experience, right? You can kind of just see these breadcrumbs of success from just saying yes to things, right? From, maybe you didn't necessarily know what you were doing, or, maybe you didn't think you had the qualifications for doing so, or maybe you didn't know anyone. I mean, there's so many, variables that can kind of play against you. But I think if you're able to push all of that aside and look ahead and see where your compass is pointing, right? You wanted to be involved in motorcycles. You were going to figure it out. You said yes. You're basically building the plane as you fly it, as I like to say.
Yeah, when I started out, the term imposter syndrome didn't exist, at least to me, and I'm like the entire time I'm going like, they're going to trust me to write a press release about the new Aprilia RSV. Really? I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and you just kind of muddle through and and you ask friends the I think you've probably heard me say this before, but the truth about the motorcycle and power sports, the greater power sports industry, is that it's a wading pool. It's not a swimming pool, right? So
Mm.
in a swimming pool, you can kind of go to the deep end and pee and nobody's going to notice. But in a wading pool, everyone's going to notice. So you have to stay cool the entire time you're in this power sports wading pool. So um, that's uh, that's the reality of it, is you're going to run into the same people who are as passionate about motorcycles or side by sides or they're part of the business as you are, and they may be wearing a red hat this year, and a few years later wearing a black and orange hat, and just kind of switching teams, but that core passion is really what unites all of us, and it will keep those people who really are committed to this space. It'll keep them around. You're going to see them again.
Yeah, like so well said, truly. And I'd love to ask you just if you were to give, someone advice as to, someone who wants to get into the industry or get involved in motorcycling, where would you recommend they start?
Well, honestly, everybody's got their own little their own little sort of leatherman of skill sets, right? And certain tools in your arsenal are better used than others. Um so when it comes to anybody asking like sort of like life or career advice or whatever, it's just own the niche. Just figure out what you're good at and just be the best at it, right? And so some people I think are terrific salespeople, but they don't necessarily like the idea of being a salesman. But if you go in and you are as good a salesman as you can be, and then you leverage that opportunity for additional training or exposure or whatever, next thing you know, you can be a regional manager or a product planner or or dozens of other gigs in the motorcycle industry.
Mm,
So if you just figure out what you're good at, um, and then use that as a launching point for other parts of your career, that's what'll get you going. And for me, it was photography. I was a photography major. I wasn't a business major. I mean,
mm,
anybody will tell you that, right? But I was a creative person, and that creativity, that was my tool, that was my strength, was to be able to kind of pre-visualize something, come up with something on the spot, use minimal tools to not need a lot from the outside, but be able to kind of do it within my own toolkit, so to speak.
mhm,
And it was that. And I don't have a degree in marketing. I don't have a degree in business. I don't, none of that stuff. It's all come from being creative and just digging in and figuring out along the way.
mhm,
Um, and it took me a long time, it's part of that imposter syndrome thing, but it took me a long time to realize that my creativity was my core value. That was the main thing that I brought into any organization, was this like abundant creativity and tackling a situation. And
mm,
so but I didn't really realize that. I thought everybody was like that. Everybody
right.
had that skill set. And when I realized it is when I met somebody who was like unbelievable at like spreadsheets. Because I'm like my eyes start crossing, man. And that person starts like, we're working out. It was like a template for like a press event or something like that. And they go, oh yeah, let me help you out. And they're clicking little shortcuts, move this, do that, do that. And they did in like 5 minutes what it was going to take me all day long to do. And they did it better. And I realized like I will never have that skill set.
Mm,
But I can work with that person who does, and mold it into what I need. And then that person, when they need creativity, then they can turn to me and I can kind of put on their departmental hat and help them out. And I've been able to do that my entire career. So You
Mhm.
know, if anybody feels like they're underqualified for something, you are. We all are.
Right.
And it's just a matter of just like, screw it, man, let's figure it out and go. We all suck. But let's, you know, but nobody knows that yet. But, you know, internally, you know, we're like, ugh. But in
Mhm.
reality, everyone's like that. And, you know, and usually the person who comes in all puffy chested and braggadocious, they're just peacocking. They don't, you know, they're going to struggle. They're going to have a hard time. They're not the ones who necessarily, just because you're loudest doesn't mean you're the best, you know. And so anyway, that's if that's any kind of a piece of advice, it doesn't fit on a fortune cookie, but it
Mhm.
fits on a podcast. So
I was gonna say that. I was like, I think Robert, we should get you like keeping it real with Robert Pandya podcast. And I know
the
your experience.
world's longest fortune cookie thing would just keep going and going.
It would be like, you should just watch this podcast. You're welcome. No, but truly, and I know you have such experience with podcasting, if that's a word, uh, with all of that too. And truly, I just feel like you are this vast wealth of knowledge and experience. And I know for myself, I mean, I have turned to you so many times, even in my career in motorcycling, to help me, you know, calibrate my compass and really know what it is I can be, like my skill sets I can be utilizing. And I feel like, I guess what I'm trying to say with that is, and you have inspired me, and I really feel like you have been such a mentor to me points in my life and in my career in motorcycling that has really helped me figure out, you know, what is that special niche? What are the things that I should be focusing on? And, you know, I get so excited and passionate about so many things in motorcycling. And I know that I have myself spread myself very thin doing XYZ, you know,
Yeah.
ABC. But truly you have been such a guiding light for me in my career. And I'm just beyond thankful to be, like I said, interviewing you and getting once again to like just see how your mind works. You know, I know you don't think of yourself as this creative genius, but you really are. And you have not only inspired me, but so many other people in this industry. So I'm grateful to have you as a mentor. I really am.
Well, thanks. That's it. I don't take compliments well, so
I
thank you
know.
very much. It's you put me on the spot, but you know, we all have our opportunity to help somebody else, you know, and if my awareness of the community of motorcycling started with you know, a one percenter flipping my petcock the right direction, you know, it just shows that it just doesn't take a whole lot to,
Mhm.
you know, to help somebody out in a big way. And yeah, I just encourage all of us to keep doing that. Like I said, it's a wading pool, so if you're a jerk, you're going to get kicked out of the wading pool at some point.
It's true. It's very true. And I'd love to switch gears and talk to you about, you know, this new gig that you got with the Barber Museum. I want to hear all about it and like tell me everything. Tell me it all, Robert.
Well, we'll back up. For those who haven't heard of the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, it's in Birmingham, Alabama. The primary benefactor is a gentleman named, and I do the word gentleman is defined by this guy, George Barber, just an amazing man who had a terrific career out of Birmingham. He raced Porsches in Germany. He just was he's a very quiet and humble guy. He's not much for the spotlight in any way, but he goes and does, right.
Mm,
And through his um passion for the state of Alabama and the city of Birmingham and all things gearhead, he was a automobile racer first, and then had the opportunity to start he decided, I'm going to have the world's greatest motorcycle museum, because having the world's greatest car museum is like, that's really hard, you know, it takes up a lot of space and a whole ton of money and that kind of thing. But at the time that he started this 30 odd years ago, motorcycle museums were just kind of like small mom and pop things. They weren't really you know, it was maybe you're lucky in a warehouse and somebody might invite you in. And so he
Mm.
had this ultimate vision. So this year's the 30th anniversary of the Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum. And and he currently has a collection, the museum, I should say, currently has a collection of over 1,800 motorcycles. The vast majority are on display in just east of Birmingham in a beautiful facility. And it's also coming out of the car passion. He's got um, the biggest collection of Lotus sports cars and race cars anywhere in the world. And
Badass.
yeah, it's so cool. And
So cool.
I know there's like, I remember I bought a Tamiya model of this one Lotus, I think it was a 102B. And I had it in this box, and it's really nice high-end Japanese model kit that, you know, I wanted to make forever. And it just kind of sat in the closet and moved from house to house to house. And when I went to the Barber Museum, this is years ago, I went to the Barber Museum, I walk around the corner and the real car is there, like the actual car with the same graphics and the same number on the nose and the whole, and I'm like, shut the frank up. That's
Yeah,
that's
right?
the real thing. And now I work there and get to walk in past that thing, and someday I'll make the model kit. But it's like it's it's just an incredible place. It's 5 stories high. It's a beautiful, beautiful architectural accomplishment.
Mhm.
It's got these like Guggenheim inspired ramps that go up between the floors, and just tens of thousands of feet of display space, a restoration shop downstairs, and of course it all backs up onto the Barber Motorsports Park, which is the most beautiful race course in America,
Mm.
period. I mean, it is absolutely stunning. It's loaded with sculptures and walking paths. It's a European style track, so there's no, you know, tacky looking grandstands with multicolored seats and all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
It's just rolling green hills and like groves of trees, and you walk around with your little folding chair and plop it down in there and check it all out. So I've had a relationship with the Barber Museum for almost 30 years in getting to visit it, and I could tell that story if you want. Uh, but my job now as communications director is really to help amplify that story,
Mm.
is to put the humanity around the machines. You know, we've got this great collection of machines, but it's people who designed it, people who wrote it, and people who
Mhm.
were inspired by those machines, you know. And that's you know, this ongoing story of motorcycling is the way it, like a katana sword, it kind of folds over itself over and over and over and over again, right?
Mhm.
And that's the opportunity with my new gig. um and I love it. I absolutely love it. So you're interviewing me in the throes of packing up my life in Texas, where I thought I was going to be until I croaked, and I'm
Mhm.
packing her all up, and I'm moving out to Alabama, and fully committed to the program out there, and I'm just beyond honored to even have a business card that's got my name on it. Sick,
Mhm.
man.
It's so cool. It's so
It's
rad.
so
Let's
cool.
just be real here.
It is so cool. I just got a note this morning that I'm going to Goodwood for the Festival of Speed, and I'm going to accompany Sir John Surtees' 1964 Ferrari, where we're going to take it to Lord March's castle and go race it at the Goodwood Festival. You know, I don't get to drive it, mind you. I might not even get to like polish it. It's like one of those like Spinal Tap things. Don't even look at it. Don't even look at it. But I get to go along and, you know, write stories on that and take pictures, and, you know, and share that experience with other gearheads out there, to inspire them to, you know, go do your thing, go stretch the throttle cable, go, you know, come to Goodwood and see and hear and smell these amazing machines ripping around you know, the track there, and just be amongst your people. And
Mhm.
that's a thing that I'm really excited about, is, you know, just kind of getting to be a catalyst for other people to go, I want to go see that, I want to go do that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, 100%. Oh, Robert, this is just so cool and so neat. I know, I mean, obviously from being in the industry, it's like we all know of, the Barber Motorsports, well, Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, right? It's like, I mean, all of us know about it. And I would
I
just,
don't know that all of you know about it. I will counter that because I think there's a lot of people who have like no idea that this place is there, right? I honestly, you know about it because you're kind of in the middle of the mix, but I'm telling you, there's people who have no clue. And when
mm,
you see it, it's one of those like, holy crap, how did I not know? And we run into them every week at the museum where they saw a billboard or just like decided, to check out the Bucky's down the street, and they're like, oh, there's a museum, and just like came up the road, and it's amazing. So that's my opportunity, is to kind of get more people to know that it's there. But if you know about it, then come visit, please, because we always got more
yes,
stuff.
absolutely. Well, and I think let me re-say what I was thinking, because being in the industry, I have known of the Barber Vintage
Yeah,
Motorsports Museum, right? But it's not some place I've ever gone to before. I mean,
right.
I think when you think of, Birmingham, Alabama, or just in general, I mean, you don't really think of it being this, epicenter for motorsports in a way, right? But
Yeah.
knowing that it exists, I mean, and even hearing you speak about it, just the story that you're telling me. I mean, this is an incredible story, right? About not only an individual with a vision, right, and a passion for motorsports, but to see it have, had its roots in this industry, if you will, and helping build this culture for
Mhm.
30 years now. I mean, there's really something to be said about that. That's incredibly special. And for you to, right, to have been passed the torch to tell this story, share this story, grow an awareness for this incredible place that exists. I mean, it's really inspirational for me, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this, because I know myself, like, I wanna get a ticket and go to Alabama now, right? I
Heck
wanna come and
yeah.
see this. I wanna learn about this because it's important, right? And for all of us who, who are love motorcycling, it's in our DNA, right? And this is sort of seems one of those, like, home sites we all need to make a pilgrimage to, right? To come experience what's happening here at the Barber, Vintage Motorsports Museum. So I'm so pumped that you are gonna be the one sharing the story and helping this, grow as it so rightfully deserves.
Oh, well, I can't say it enough. It's an honor to be around it, and even to have a key to walk in the front door and everything. But um, really the gift of that place is when somebody comes in and sees it for the first time, and it gets
Yeah.
a little addictive. It's like the wow, and the eyes get big, and you just want to stand there and go, yeah, see, I told you so. And it's it is really a spectacular place. And one of the challenges for on a national scale, and this comes out of getting to fly around the country and do all the work, is Birmingham is one of those southern flyover cities, right? And so oh, I'm going to Daytona for Bike Week. Well, you just kind of pop right over the top of it, and and arrive in Orlando or whatever and go do your thing. um, the reality is that Birmingham is incredibly easy to get to. It's only 2.5 hours east of Atlanta. It's like 3 hours south of Nashville. It's right on Interstate 20. The museum uh, doesn't back onto it, but is really close to Interstate 20. So, for instance, the my friends from Clockworks were coming through, and they were driving back up to South Dakota, and you got to take I-20. So making a stop is not a bucket list thing; it's a tradition, right?
Mm,
And just to come every year and check it out and see what's changed, and remind yourself, of these beautiful machines and the stories that are connected to them. So that's if you have to dogleg a trip through Birmingham, it's not like there's nothing else and just the museum sitting there. There's like unbelievably good food, there's great culture, there's beautiful architecture in the city. It's inexpensive to stay, and very very diverse. There's some terrific ADV riding through there, so I'm looking forward to busting out the the Guzzi 85 TT and exploring some of that myself. And
Sure.
yeah, it's just one of those places that you got, it's funny. It's a little bit like Sturgis, right?
Mm.
Because Sturgis is very much like the flyover thing. And then when you take the effort to get there, you're like totally rewarded when you're there.
Oh,
And
so true.
the Birmingham trip is like pretty much the same sort of thing where you're like, oh man, it's going to take a while to get there, but it really doesn't. And it's really great when you're there.
I love the way that you said that. It's like this treasure. It's this
Yeah.
treasure here in the States, right? And it's absolutely
Yeah.
worth seeing. Oh, well, you've got me inspired, Robert. You totally do. We're gonna be after we have this conversation today, I'm gonna be calling you to plan a trip. Just gotta make sure that you're there, right? Because I know
Hello,
you've
Pandya Travel Agency. One-way tickets to Birmingham.
exactly. And I'm curious, do you have any other, happenings going on or anything that you're going to be, involved in this year? I know that for this restaurant motorcycle attorneys interview, we love to keep things evergreen, right? Because this is going to be something that exists
Oh yeah,
forever. Um,
forever.
but I'd love to hear, like, what are some of these annual things or, some of the stuff that you're involved in?
So my main focus is the museum, but the museum backs up onto the race course, right? And so it's kind of a symbiotic relationship between the two. The museum is not a static place. So within the museum is an education center where we literally bring in class loads, like by the dozens of kids
Mm.
throughout the week, and we teach them about motorcycle design at the Advanced Design Center up on the fifth
Oh,
floor. They learn like, oh, this is how you sketch a motorcycle, and then they go walking around and look at all the different motorcycles on 5 levels of stuff. And then there's a classroom downstairs where they get like a little lump of clay and they get to mold their motorcycle that they drew. And there's a bunch of um, PW50s that they can take apart and see how the piston works and see how the carburetor mounts and actually put the bike back together again, which is really cool. So that's, inspiring our youth is an ongoing thing. Big events that continues. The Indy car race is one of the bigger events that we do, but by far the biggest event that we do, this year's our 19th anniversary. 2025 will be the 20th anniversary,
mm,
is the Barber Vintage Fest. And it's, 50, 60, 70,000 of your friends coming who are all appreciative of all different kinds of motorcycles. And there's vintage motorcycle racing, displays, OEM demos. And I mean, it's like a real fest. And but it's all types of bikes, and it's not like the Sturgis thing where it's very heavily American V twin, which is great. But when you show up on a Kawasaki Z900 or something like that, you don't really feel like you fit anywhere. On this thing, it's all kinds of bikes,
mm,
and in particular, the European and Japanese motorcycles really, the fans of those brands find a home. So the Barber Vintage Fest happens in October every year. That's something to check out. We have an event called the Small Bore, Barber Small Bore, and it's all motorcycles under 150 cc's. So it's like
cool.
it takes all the seriousness of motorcycling, and so it's like, yeah, we're just going to park that for a minute, and we're just going to go learn how to do wheelies on a Grom, right?
That
And
sounds
so
awesome.
I know it is awesome. And so there's like mini bike straight rhythm and like a endurance race where there's a bunch of Groms and Kawasaki Z125s, and I'm gonna ride my Buscadero, my new Buscadero 110 that I bought, and there's all kinds of um, custom bike, everything that you expect of like a Sturgis. There's dirt bike racing, there's stunt competitions, there's road racing, there's food, there's music, there's cool people, and Honda's gonna have a demo truck out there. So if you haven't ridden a new Grom, you want to try it out, or if you got your old CT90 sitting in a shed, polish that bad boy up, bring it out to the Barber Small Bore, and it's just a
Yeah,
riot.
buddy.
It's so much fun. And so anyway, so that event happens. And then one of the big things at the track, and this is kind of a higher end like premium thing, is that it's the home base for the Porsche driving experience. So you swipe your credit card for not a insignificant amount, but you swipe your credit card, you get yourself to Birmingham. They
Mhm.
pick you up. It's a first class treatment the entire time. And you get to bomb around the track with professional drivers, some of them pro race car drivers, and learn how to drive one of their 911s or a Cayman or something like that. You get to bomb around this beautiful, beautiful racetrack with the best drivers and visit
Mm.
the museum, and you get great food and a beautiful hotel you stay at and everything. So the Porsche driving experience for any car nuts out there is it's probably the best driving experience in the country. I haven't done a ton of those yet, but it'd be hard to imagine that you could beat this one. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff is happening. We have a full calendar. I looked at our calendar when I started, and there were 2 dates that were unclaimed all year long. Outside of
Mhm.
a couple of holidays, it was like, no, there's something on the track all the time, and a reason to swing by. So
Mhm.
you don't need a reason, just come by. It's cool.
I'm just gonna come by for sure.
Just
There's plenty of reasons, plus I get to
Yeah.
see you. So this is like, 2 birds, 1 stone, maybe like 10 birds, 1 stone, but either way, this sounds epic and badass, and you've got me, like I said, so inspired to get out and experience this museum and all that that's happening. And just in general, I mean, it's just so exciting to see this fresh breath of air, right? Brought into something that's so historic and so legendary here in our motorcycle community and culture. So, on behalf of all of us, thank you. Thank you for all of the love and passion that you put into it. And I can't wait to see what this endeavor brings for you. Truly.
Well, I thank you, and I invite everybody to come out and come enjoy it and see for yourselves and have that wow moment. Maybe I can stand
Mhm.
next to you and just go like wow at the same time. So
Forever wowing,
yeah,
forever.
exactly. Exactly right.
Well, I'd love to ask you, Robert. I mean, obviously, given since this is an interview with restaurant motorcycle attorneys, one of the questions we really love to ask our guests is, have you ever been in a motorcycle accident? And if so, what did you learn?
Well, as a matter of fact,
Ding.
I have had an experience with gravity a couple of times on 2 wheels. Once was that FT 500 Ascot that I was telling you about. I had a new back tire on the thing, and I was a photographer at the University of Texas at the time, and I had a suit on and my camera bag strapped over. This was like pre DGR days. Like I was, in the suit on a motorcycle. I had to get to work, and I was running a little late because I forgot how to tie a Windsor knot. And I whip around the corner with this new back tire, and it's spun up like a heartbeat, and I was just down, and I tore a hole in my suit pants, and I was just like, oh, I had to duct tape it from behind once I got to the theater and stuff. And that was just being in a rush, and that was just like taught me, it's like, all right, you're not allowed to be in a rush. You can decide to go fast, but you can't be rushed. That's two different things, right?
Mm,
And so that taught me something there too. And then that lesson was, and that was years and years ago, and that lesson was reinforced this last October when I was
mm,
riding Suzuki DR 650, and we were in Arkansas, and it's kind of clay, slimy dirt there, and it had been raining for a good couple days, and we just decided to, me and some buddies every fall we go for a dual sport trip together, and so we were like, screw it, man, we're going. So we got all the gear on, getting wet, just dealing with it, and it's a little sketchy every now and then, but it's within the skill set. Life is good. And I got a little bit cocky and
mm,
just like rushed over the top of this hill where I wasn't really sure what was on the other side of the hill. And as I came up over the top of it, there was this clay, like mud puddle that was like the slickest substance on earth. It was like a bowl of Mobil One oil or something, and I just went and lost the front end and landed hard on my shoulder. And even though I was wearing good gear and everything, I stretched my arm and tore some stuff in my shoulder. So So, we're out in the middle of freaking nowhere, Arkansas, and luckily a guy in a side by side came by, because I don't think I could even pop the top on a beer can with my right arm at the time. I was hurting so
Oof.
bad. And my buddies came back and collected me, and we got it figured out, but it was a miserable 2.5, 3 hours sitting there in this cold rain, kind of, waiting to figure it all out. And just knowing that I was hurt and it was going to take a while to fix. And I haven't been on a dirt bike, like a hardcore dirt bike, I should say, since. But I'm looking forward to getting back onto it, and and doing the therapy on the shoulder and blah blah blah. So,
Mhm.
it's a risk. Motorcycling is a risk reward thing, and there are some people who just don't get that. They just like embrace safety and embrace like their cocooned space, right? And they get in their tan Camry with their tan interior and their khaki pants on, and and that's cool. That's cool. I'm not knocking it. I'm saying it's cool. That's your world. But the people who can have the conversation around risk versus reward, whether you're a skydiver or a cop or a pilot or in the military or anything like that. Motorcyclists understand that, I'm willing to assume a certain higher level of risk than the average person, because the reward is so great, and it's addictive, and it's that community, and it's the sharing, and it's that common language that you have with
Mhm.
people who get into it, right? And so, as many people who like to jump all over you with negative stories about how their uncle got hurt, or or whatever, they just don't understand the reward part of it. And really, ultimately, that's what it's all about, and so each one of those little lessons in writing just continues to add to your sort of pyramid of knowledge,
Mhm.
and you just get the best riders in the world train their asses off. They're
Mhm.
learning every time they get on the motorcycle, and that's
Right.
really the thing about riding. Is it's just it will give you back 10 times what you put into it. And then the community is just there to support you. So I've had accidents, but they haven't stopped me, and they won't.
Mhm.
And I just look forward to the next time I get to go out and sort of challenge myself a little bit.
Mhm. Gosh, that, like, really touched my heart, Robert, truly. I mean, because I absolutely agree with you. It's there's the risk, but there's also the reward, and I think,
Yeah.
you and I both know, and most people, right, in our community know that, I mean, motorcycling comes with its risks, right? But, that's why we have, organizations like Westbound Motorcycle Attorneys there to help support motorcycle riders on and off the road. And um, we have this really stellar community of people to that we all learn from each other, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we've all been in tough situations, whether that's, on our bike or off our bike, and learning from one another, and just like you said, there's this really beautiful reward that comes from motorcycling, right? That freedom of expression, that this incredible community. And what a better way to experience life, right, than behind a motorcycle. It's just the
Yeah.
best.
And it is, it's the people who get it that are like sort of the most rewarding. That, I think motorcycling is still right around 7% of the US transportation matrix, right? And the goal for any reasonable person in motorcycling is not, we want to get to 100% of the population rides. That's idiotic. It makes no sense whatsoever. There's tons of people who should not operate motorcycles, right? They don't
Mhm.
have the awareness, or they're not ready for it. That's fine. But if when we all pull together and we do the right thing by training and gear and inviting people into this community, then we go from 7 to 8%.
Mm.
That's a massive number. And
It
I
is.
guarantee you, anybody on the sales side of this business would be like, well, heck yeah, I'd like to go from 7% of transportation to 8%. That's a major jump. That's, you know, that's not, 1 percentage point means a lot at that scale. And it's companies like Russ Brown, just to give them a plug. I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't state the fact that they sponsor the Sturgis Buffalo Chip, where I used to work, and was a job that was really hard to walk away from to take this new museum gig. But I'm still friends with those guys, and Russ Brown does some awesome stuff. The agency does some awesome stuff at the Buffalo Chip, and I think Woody even named there's a road, Russ Brown Road is like one
Mhm.
of the main roads right on campus, and um, so that's you know, that's a group of people who get it and are part of the community and support it, um, and it's just a, you know, it's just another powerful expression about how we all kind of stick together and help each other out.
Truly, Robert, thank you so much for joining me today and just talking about your experience, your history, your career, all of these, awesome things that you're doing and just all the passion that you have for this community and culture. Like on behalf of everyone, truly thank you. Because, this interview series that we've been doing for Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys, it's really been about not only inspiring, other people to get involved in the motorcycle community, but really highlighting some of these pioneers, these incredible people like yourself who have been a part of really growing this community. So thank you so much for being a part of it.
Well, right back at you, Kelly. You've done an awesome job in being such a fresh and energetic face in the motorcycle world. It's not just a bunch of us older dudes with salt and pepper beards, and you know, I mean, it's the world of motorcycling is evolving and changing, and you know, you're a huge part of that. There are men and women, young men and women around you that are also part of that whole thing, and as our world gets more and more, you know, digital and more sort of enclosed in that digital space, the relief valve of an analog experience like motorcycling is becoming more and more appealing. And
Mm.
it's folks that are your age and from your kind of background that really are the ones to tell that story. It's not you know, the grumpy old man going, hey kid, you should ride a motorcycle. You know, it's you guys getting everybody all pumped up. So I thank you for everything that you've done